Namaskar. I welcome you all on another interesting and informative session of India-Ireland Friendship Lecture Series with Dr. Kumud Diwan, a renowned exponent of Banaras Thumri. Today she will speak on the topic Thumri in the art music spectrum and its transition in the independence struggle of India. Dr. Kumud Diwan is disciple of Padma Vibhushan Pandit Channulal Mishra of Banaras. She is a research scholar of Sangeet Natak Akademi and Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. IGNCA also published her book, The Legendary Vagyakaryas of Hindustani Classical Music in Main Khayal Gharanas in 2019, which was hailed by scholars and performers of Indian classical music as a path-breaking work. She has recently published another of her book titled Classical Music, The Divine Power of Yoga, which was launched on International Day in June 2021. Her research and documentation of rare Thumris and tapas of Gaya for Sangeet Natak Akademi in 2007 received critical acclaim, acknowledging her as a scholar of classical music. She also holds PhD in business studies. Dr. Kumud was the advisor to Prasar Bharati for its DD Bharati national channel and curated many well-appreciated telecasts of classical music on Doordarshan. She has also been the conceptualizer and guest anchor of Lok Sabha TV for its program Kala Samvad for 2 years. She has done outstanding and sustained work on Banaras musical traditions and has many thematic programs on Banarasi to her credit. She has been performing at prestigious concerts countrywide and overseas and is a renowned performer of Thumri genre. She performed at Tansen Festival, which pays tribute to great Indian music maestro, Saptak Festival Ahmedabad, Kalidas Festival, Lucknow, Taj and Ganga Mahotsav, Rajgir, Bodh Gaya and Bihar Divas Festival, Delhi Government Thumri Festival and many more. Festival of India in Kabul, performances in London and Sri Lanka. She also performed in various countries under ICCR sponsorship. Her work has been appreciated and acknowledged with many awards, and here I would like to mention a few. Sangeet Natak Akademi Award 2021 for Hindustani Classical Music, prestigious Atal Shikhar Samman for Indian Classical Music in 2020, received the acclaimed Ojaswini Award from Bhopal in 2015 and the Indira Gandhi Priyadarshini Samman in 2010 for her outstanding contribution as a performer, researcher, and writer of Indian classical music. Before we listen to Dr. Kumud Diwan, I would request His Excellency, Ambassador of India, Shri Akhilesh Mishra, to give introductory remarks to today's talk.
Namaskar. Thank you, Emaji. At the outset, I extend my warm greetings to all friends who are connected with this program in India and also in Ireland. For us in the Indian Embassy, it's a special privilege and honor to have someone like Dr. Kumud Diwanji for this program. She is not only a very, very accomplished and awarded artist, but also she is unique in the sense that she is a very gifted communicator. And that aspect is extremely important when we talk about cultural diplomacy, because cultural diplomacy is not about performing Swanta Sukhai, but it is for communicating and sharing with others. And that is why when I was the DG of ICCR, I was really impressed by Dr. Kumud Diwanji's work. And she is a great asset for India for leveraging our cultural talent, cultural assets, cultural heritage. And she is a tremendous asset for ICCR and India to leverage. And also it's a special personal privilege for me to welcome her, given her very deep ties with Banaras, myself being Banarasi, and I admire of Chandulalji. And so it's a very special occasion for me to welcome you, Kumud Diwanji. Just to mention that we are hosting this program with a special objective, special agenda. for strengthening India-Ireland people-to-people friendship. As you know, that India and Ireland have long-standing ties, multifaceted contacts. Ireland inspired us during our freedom struggle. Our constitution was deeply influenced and inspired by the Irish constitution. The friendship between Tagore and W.B. Yeats was very, very important. Also, Irish Nobel laureates in poetry and literature, they have influenced India very significantly. But if I look at the contemporary situation, I feel there's a gap. And the biggest shortcoming I see is awareness of India in Ireland, similarly awareness of Ireland in India. So as a low-cost instrument, we have started this virtual conversation between India and Ireland. Esteemed friends, dignitaries from both countries, they have been gracing this platform. And the idea is that through virtual connect, people in Ireland get to know about interesting work that is being done in India in different fields, in art and culture, science and technology, education, infrastructure, innovation. Similarly, we wish that Indian people also have a better understanding of very remarkable transformation that our land has gone through in science and technology, in agriculture, in fintech, in higher education, as well as in creative industries, in art and painting and literature and dance and music and creative digital technologies. Ireland is a powerhouse. So I see there is an enormous opportunity for Indian and Irish artists to connect, get to know, and then probably establish partnerships and work together. So in that context, I'm really optimistic, very happy to have you, Kumudji, in this program because Thumri is one genre which is not well known in Ireland. So this is a very significant initiative that through your program, I hope that people in Ireland get to know about Thumri and its very important role in Indian musical traditions. Also, as we learned from your presentation, its contribution in India's freedom struggle and nationalist sentiments. So your theme is very important for us. Once again, we are very privileged to welcome you and we are grateful to you for sparing time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So Himaji, time for me to start. Ganga Taranga Ramaniya Jata Kalapam Gauri Nirantar Vibhushit Vam Bhagam Narayan Priyamananga Madapaharam Varanasi Purapatim Bhaj Vishwanatham Hara Hara Mahadev and Om Gurubhyo Namaha. At the very outset, I take this opportunity to thank the Embassy of India in Ireland and our ambassador, His Excellency Shri Akhilesh Mishra ji, who we know from our his ICCR days in India, and his deep interest in the cultural underpinnings and nuances of Indian music and other art forms, and how much he promoted it here when he was the Director General ICCR, and I had the privilege and the opportunity to interact with him very often on these issues. And I thank the embassy very, very from the bottom of my heart, our ambassador, sir, and Hema Sharma ji, who has coordinated this program, that I'm able to talk today on Thumri, which is my passion, my music, my life. My world between two Tanpuras, as they say, is the world of Thumri. It's a Thumakti hui dunya, or it is a world which has its own lilt, because that is the genre of the music that I sing. I'm also particularly thankful to the Embassy of India in Ireland for inviting me to speak on a very, very special occasion, which is we are celebrating India's Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of Indian independence. This is also the Amrit Kal, according to our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. And we are also going to very shortly have the great G20 seminar. So this particular talk is augmented in the sense that it is specially dedicated to these initiatives. And I am very happy to put my Yagyahuti in the same, and I'm deeply privileged and honored for that. The topic that we have collectively chosen for today is Thumri in the art music spectrum and its transition in the independent struggle of India. Now, the independent struggle of India, if we underscore that much as Ambassador Mishra said, that Thumri probably may not be that well-known genre of Hindustani classical music in Ireland or those parts. And the contribution of the Thumri singers of yore in the Indian freedom struggle, if we underscore that, then that is even a more dynamic aspect of the Thumri spectrum, because very little is known about the contribution of the Thumri singers of yore, of yesteryears, to our independent struggle. And today we are going to unravel, and जैसे कहते हैं ना, that मुजस्समे पे से आपने अनावरण किया. So today we are going to put this in public domain in a very big way also, and talk about some of those people. So it is an interesting topic which has been tweaked particularly to take in the contributions of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and some of the yesteryear's performers. What is very important is to know is what is art music, and we then try and put Thumri in its perspective. So music which is structured, music which is prepared by those composers who are trained in the rudiments of that music, is far more aesthetic in its literary underpinnings. The music is also more elitist, has been always an elitist genre and form of music. Its performances have been driven so, and that music, it is far more sophisticated form of music, and that we can easily call art music. We will talk about Matanga Muni's Brihadashi of the 8th and the 9th centuries, which talked about music, classical music being either Margi or Desi. So the Margi Sangeet, according to Matanga Muni, and later traditions that we believe in, is this art music spectrum that we are talking about, which is more structured, more meant for Vidwans and scholars, connoisseurs of music. And the other is the Desi, which is more popular, more for the masses. And that's how the distribution of the Margi and Desi was done by Matang Muni also in Brihadashi. How does Thumri feature and where does it figure in the overall spectrum of Hindustani classical music or Indian classical music itself is what we'll talk about. Then we'll talk about the development, the genesis and the development of the Thumri genre to understand the placement of Thumri within that. Then we'll talk about the various features and characteristics of the Thumri. And then finally, we'll talk about the performers of yore, and then we'll talk about the freedom movement. And in that sequence, I'm trying to position today's topic. Wherever it seizes my imagination and I feel that it is justified, I will also break into a few songs. So I have my digital Tanpura standing by me, and we'll see how the songs can be woven in while we talk. So we all know that classical music emanated, and the genesis of classical music is from our Vedic traditions and our Vedas. It's an absolute and a given that the Hindustani Indian classical music has emanated from our Vedic traditions and our Vedas, particularly the Rig Veda Richas were recited, and they were recited to give the Ahuti, which is the Yagya Ahuti in the Sam Yagyas that we used to do, and the Vedic Yagyas. And a Vedic Prayoga Shala, that means the Vedic laboratories, in the Mantrochar, because we used to do the Rig Veda Richas as mantras, as oral recitations of the Vedic traditions. Those mantra uchar in the ahutis of the yagyas, became the base or the inspiring sources for raga development, prabandha gaiki, as well as our contemporary classical music as it is today. And if we talk about Bharat Muni, then Bharat Muni has contributed to his book, Natya Shastra, that has 6 chapters on classical music traditions. We talk about 12th century Sangeet Ratnakar by Sharangadeva, which is the, as we say, the basic gospel text for Indian classical music. And that is inspired by Matang as well as by Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, and exhaustively gives us the raga structure. From where the music, the Hindustani classical music that we have today, the contemporary music of India, as it stands today, is derived from those Sanskrit texts of our old tradition of Shastras. Some other day we will go into details of those, because we have to give this talk in a given time frame, and we'll do so. So, inspired by the Vedic traditions, our mantrochar, the Vedic prayogshalas or laboratories, and everything going back to the Big Bang theory in the West, in the East, it has always been Hiranyagarbhom, Hiranyagarbhas, Samvartatagre, Bhutasya Jata, Patireka Asit. From this shloka itself has been the genesis of Hindustani classical music, and from our Vedic traditions. From our old Shastras, Matanga's Vedashi, Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni, and subsequently Sharangadev's Sangeet Ratnakar, etc. have been the traditions. Hindustani music has been, it was a Chand Prabandhaki Gaiki, a Prabandha Gaiki. Dhrupad or Dhrupad is the first absolute Indian type of music or genre of music, which is from our Vedas, and it was a Dhrupad, which later started being called Dhrupad. And so fully 100% Hindustani or Indian is our Dhrupad. Then we had the Khayal Gaiki based on the Dhrupad Gaiki, and then we had the Thumri Gaiki and Thumri and Tappa. So the Hindustani classical music spectrum consists of these 4 types of Gaiki or music: Dhrupad, Khayal, Thumri, and Tappa, and that's it. And Thumri is as popular or as sought after as the Dhrupad and the Khayal Gaiki. So we call it the third peg of a tripod because Tappa is somewhere integrated to Thumri itself in the Indian classical music tripod structure. Now, the question is, what is Thumri? So the description of Thumri is something that can be sung, has a bhava pradhana literature, which means that emotionally driven content of the literature can be set to a raga and a tala, and can be sung with a lot of emotion and feeling, and is also very compatible to dance, because as the name denotes, it's Thumari. So as we say in our own colloquial Hindi language, जिस संगीत को सुनकर ठुमका लगाने का मन करता है, वही ठुमरी है. To translate this into English, the music that makes you, the lilt of that music makes you get up to dance, and you sing with a lot of passion and emotion the text or the literature that is being talked about, is Thumri. It is music which is completely imbued with thum or thumak. Thum means wanting to sway this way and that way and to dance. So that is the simplest definition of Thumri. It comprises of 2 subwords, thum and ri. So thum is something that makes you want to get up to break into a dance automatically. And the other is ri. Ri is a calling name for the female confidant of the Naika. The Naika in the Hindustani classical music or dance or our literary traditions or our cultural traditions is the female protagonist around who the lyrics of the song or the dance are structured. We also have a Nayak or a male protagonist many times, but usually it is the Naika. And because we have a Naika or a female protagonist, she needs to talk to somebody as a confidant, and usually a female, about the dalliance with the beloved, about the meeting with the beloved, about the... Thumri is a song of separation, of union, of reunion, of small skirmishes and nok-jhok, as we call lovers' fight. And who should she take all this material to? Who should she talk about? Because there is an inherent tendency in women to talk about their love and their lover, and about the dalliance and the meeting, or the not so meeting, or somebody interrupting that meeting, or anything around that love theme. And this Ri is a calling name for that female confidant. It is like Sunari Sakhi, Sunari Thumri. So that is the other expatiation of the, if I was to expatiate upon the definition of Thumri, it is anything which has a 2-minute or a sway of movement of hips, or wanting to break into some kind of a dance with abundance and passion. It has a lot of thumat, or it has a lot of lilt, that is Thumri. And the wanting to share the love themes or the feelings that the female protagonist is going through with another female who's the confidant is the Ri, or the calling name for this female confidant. Simply, that is the definition of Thumri. So I hope I'm able to explain to you that in the genre of Thumri, what exactly is the music all about? What is the content of that music? What is the literal nuance of that music? And why it is called Thumri? Now, Thumri emanated from the Gangetic belt. It's called the Purab Ang Thumri. So the emanate, jahan se Ganga behti hai, the Gangetic belt. That's why the centers of the Purab Ang, or the eastern part of India, Thumri development were majorly these cities: Banaras or Varanasi today, and it was Gaya, which is near Varanasi in the state of Bihar, and it was Lucknow, which is also in Uttar Pradesh and very close to Varanasi. And Mirzapur was a sub-center of Varanasi, just being 50 kilometers away from Varanasi. So the Kajri, which is a sub-genre of Thumri and sung in the monsoon season, has many compositions coming from Mirzapur, which is just 50 kilometers away from Varanasi. So we have Thumri, which is a Purab Ang or eastern type of Thumri. We also have a Punjab Ang or a western type of Thumri from the western state of India, which is Punjab, and northwestern state of Punjab. And so Purab Ang, eastern Thumri, and Punjab Ang Thumri, the western Ang Thumri, these are the two major divisions of the Thumri type. Thumri to Makana, and to the entire endeavor of the Naika or the female protagonist is to entice. So to entice the male or to entice her beloved, and later in the 12th, 13th century, when the Bhakti movement came to India in a very major way, and all our literature became Bhakti Rasa and Bhakti movement driven, and all our poets took their pen to the compositions of Bhakti Pradhan or devotional literature to be composed into music and dance, then most of the Thumri lyrics became seeped in the love lore of Radha and Krishna. So we have a lot of music which is Radha, Krishna, love lore driven, and Thumri at that time was to entice. Radha is singing to entice Krishna, singing about her dalliance, singing and telling other gopis about her meeting with Krishna. So it assumes a very similar platform to a normal female protagonist who would normally, ordinarily talk about an encounter with her beloved with a female confidant. Now it is, Thumri is Shringara Rasa Pradhan. What is Shringara? Something which is, the aesthetics are very high of love, longing, separation. It is of dressing up. It is of wearing fine clothes and jewelry, and so that's why the Naika Bhed also we have the Vasak Sajja Naika, Saj Dhaj ke Baithi Hui Naika, or we have the Abhisarika, सज के बैठी हुई हो या ना भी हो लेकिन किसी के इंतजार में है, waiting for the lover to come, for her beloved to come. So we have this Naika Bhed also. So Thumri lyrics are essentially Shringar Rasa Pradhan, whether they are for an ordinary beloved or they are Radha Krishna love lord, they are Shringar Rasa Pradhan. That is the bhav or the emotion or the literary content of Thumri. Thumri was very popular not just in the eastern part and Punjab. In the late 18th, 19th century in Jodhpur, we had a king called Rasaraj, who used to write in the pen name of Rasaraj, and it was called the Thungari in Rajasthan and in Jodhpur. So we have evidence, we have empirical evidence that the word Thungari meant something akin to a Thumri. And later we have a huge Mand tradition from Rajasthan state, a Mand being a Shudra Ragini, and very close to the Rag Khamaj in Hindustani classical music, which is a very, very important and very broad-based rag for Thumris, in which there are many, many Thumris composed, Rag Khamaj. So the Rag Mand being very close to Rag Khamaj gives an evidence to the fact that Thumri was also evidently present and found in Rajasthan as a state in olden times. We have talked about what is it Thumri. We will continue to talk about its key characteristics and how it's different from, say, Khayal Gaiki, with which it's often compared, the similarities and the dissimilarities between the two. I feel that I would like to sing a very small 2 lines to you here, so that you can experience the flavor of that Thumri, the pukar of that Naika, or the emotive aspect of this genre of music, of Hindustani classical music, and see for yourself how does it sound to your ears, and you will be able to relate to what I've said when you probably hear these 2 or 3 lines, which I'm about to sing for you. And we were talking about Rag Mishra Khamaj. In Thumri, the ragas are of a Mishra nature or a mixed nature, because we have the levity, we have the freedom to take the main raga in which the composition has been structured and we are singing, while developing the notes of the raga, we can show the ragas which are next to each other, that particular raga, or we are getting some intonations of other ragas which are probably enhancing, augmenting, beautifying what we are singing. And we have the freedom of expression in Thumri, which we don't have in Khayal, because we have a raga which has a complete structure of these other notes. They could be 5, they could be 6, they could be 7. There could be 7 in ascending and 6 in descending. There could be 6 in ascending and descending, but you don't have the freedom to take a 7th note in case it's a 6th note raga. But in Thumri, unlike the Khayal Gaiki, you have this tremendous, tremendous freedom, which makes Thumri far more attractive to the ears, because you get all these nearby intonations. It also employs the skills of the singer to engage your mind and your sense of aesthetics in delving into nearby ragas. It's a huge challenge for the singer to continuously innovate, to go into another raga, only to come back into the main raga in which the Thumri is, or you have to come back. Otherwise, you veer into another terrain completely, and your Thumri is going to get changed into what you had started and what you are at, or what you will finish will be completely different. And though we do have Ragamalikas in Khayal Gaiki also, Thumri also, but then we say we are singing a Ragamalika and we are translating different ragas, but if we are not, then we have to come back to our main raga. So now I'm going to sing 2 lines for you to see what is the Thumri. And I'm singing for you Raga Mishra Khamaj. As I said, ragas are Mishra. I will probably hit on some notes in case they inspire me. And the layer or the beat cycle of this is 16 matra jat, in which we sing our slow paced Thumri, which we call Vilambit Lay Ki Thumri. So a 16-beat cycle, Tal Jat Thumri, very old one from Banaras, 200 years old. Raga Mishra Khamaj, I am singing for you. We'll try and sing more compositions from Banaras today because my music is from the city of Kashi, Varanasi or Banaras, and our His Excellency, our ambassador, is also from the holy city of Varanasi. So I am tuning in the Tanpura and singing 2 lines of that too. It'll take a minute because it's come off the cord. Radha Mishra Khamaj. And a Bhakti movement Thumri, Radha Krishna Love. So that was a slow-paced Vilambit Lay Ki Thumri in Raga Mishra Khamaj, and I told you as you start listening to it, you'll understand what the Thumri is all about. So Radha Krishna Love Lore and 3 centers, Banaras, Gaya and Lucknow. In the late 18th century, in the mid 18th century onwards, Thumri gained a lot of popularity in Lucknow. The fall of the Delhi Darbar and culture moved to Lucknow, and we have the advent of Wajid Ali Shah, the Nawab of Lucknow, who was himself a poet, wrote under the pen name of Akhtar Pia. He was a dancer of Kathak dance also. He had many, many illustrious musicians like Bhaiya Sahab Ganpat Rao from Gwalior in his court, Ustad Moizuddin Khan Sahab in his court. He had very highly trained Kathak dancers like Thakur Prasad Ji and Kalka Prasad Ji, Guru to Pandit Bindadin Maharaj Ji, who is the grandfather of Pandit Biju Maharaj Ji. And Pandit Bindadin Maharaj Ji wrote and composed many Thumris, and many Kathak dancers end the Kathak dance performance with what they call as a Thumri Bhav. So the Thumri Bhav is basically them doing a dance abhinay. Abhinay is the theatrical or the expression, facial expression also of feeling on that particular Thumri. So most dances of Kathak performers will conclude with a Thumri Bhav, and they're dancing essentially to a Thumri, and mostly they dance to the Thumri of Pandit Bindadin Maharaj. Even today, many Thumris are danced to in most gharanas of Kathak. So the Thumri is very compatible to the Kathak dance and became almost like a counterpart and a companion to the Kathak dance in the realm of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, the Awadh or Lucknow Nawab. The Nawab had many dancers in the court. Thumris were written by the day, composed by the noon, and performed by the evening in the Badshah's court, with all the couturiers sitting there, and all the literateurs of Thumri at that time. And some of the famous literateurs of Thumri are Qadar Piya in his court, Lalan Piya, Sanad Piya, Madho Piya, Qadar Piya. A lot of these people lived in the court in Lucknow, in Awadh, and they wrote Thumris, and also Pandit Bindadin Ji Maharaj. So we have a lot of Thumris of those times, and it was the pinnacle. Thumri became more popular than even Khayal in Wajid Ali Shah's court and got promoted. But when he was banned, he was to Metia Burj in Calcutta, he was sent to Metia Burj in Calcutta, and the throne was taken away from him. A lot of musicians also went with him to there. And then en route, the musicians, some of them went to Banaras. Banaras became very culturally rich. And some of them stayed back in Gaya, because the Gayawal Pandas who do the cremation rites, or the last rites for ancestors, were very, very rich patrons and very fond of Hindustani classical music. So they gave a lot of patronage to the musicians. So a lot of musicians stayed back in Gaya. Gaya became a very big center for Thumri also. And a lot of musicians from Banaras would go to, or from countrywide would go to Metia Burj to meet Wajid Ali Shah, and would stay back on Gaya, because Gaya is en route to Calcutta on the train route. And Gaya became a big center, and we used to have night-long mehfils in Gaya. My research on Gaya style Thumri for Sangeet Natak Akademi in 2007, if you go through the contents, and very brief because we have a paucity of time, that Gaya used to have night-long mehfils. And it was a Thumri mehfil of harmonium nawazi and israj, which is a sarangi kind of instrument. So we would have one singer, 4 harmoniums, 1 tabla, 3 israj, which is a sarangi-like instrument, very close to the human voice. And you would have an evening where the singer is singing 1 line of the poetry, which has 4 lines. And then we have what we say sawal jawab, or question answers. Then the first reply will come from harmonium number 1, second from harmonium number 2, and so on and so forth. And then Israj, which is close to the human voice, a string instrument like sarangi, would also join into that, those interplays of sawal jawab, or question and answers. I produce this note and I produce this note, and 1 tabla is going on with the beat cycle. And sometimes only 1 line of that 4-line poetry would be sung the whole night long, from 10 p.m. to 3 in the morning. And the second line would not be sung till wee hours of the morning, where they would sing the final 3 lines and conclude that Thumri, which was sung the night long in this beautiful development of, oh, so you say something and I say something, and your story and mine, and your flavor of the raga. Can you imagine the ambiance or the mood, or even the expertise of those Gaya mehfils or those soirees, where these people had these kind of musical exchanges? What a tremendous platform it was. What a beautiful gossamer world it was that we have lost today. And then we would have early morning Bhairavi mehfils, where the singers would sing only Bhairavi and Bhairavi and Bhairavi. It was called the Bhairavi ki mehfil. So those were the Gaya traditions. Lucknow we've talked about. So we have Banaras, Gaya, and tradition. Talk about Banaras, which was the seat of classical Thumri par excellence. And in that sense, it is very akin and similar to the Khayal Gaiki. Like you have a Chota Khayal and a Bada Khayal, 2 songs within the Khayal structure in Hindustani classical music. In Thumri, and particularly the classical Banaras Thumri, which is the Bilambit Lay, or the slow-paced Thumri in 16 Matra Jatatal, we had the Bilambit Lay ki Thumri, which was like the Bada Khayal. and followed by a quick-paced dadra in 6-beat cycle. Dha, dhi, na, dha, tu, na. That's the beat cycle of a dadra. And that was like a chota khayal. So Banaras became literally the epicenter or the watering hole for all the musicians countrywide. And they would have, because the Banaras had khayal gaiki and Drupad gaiki and beautiful Thumri gaiki. And the Thumri gaiki was patronized by the kings of Banaras, we call them the Rajas and the Rajwadas and the Samant, which is the elite, and the royal patronage was given to Thumri singers, who were usually females, very beautiful looking, very beautifully trained, adept in dance also, mostly like Kathak. And they would sit down and sing a Thumri with complete bhav and expression. And then that was called Baithi Thumri. And then they would get up to do the footwork on the laggi, which is the tail piece of the Thumri. And that was called Khari Thumri. And in those days, we did not have sound and acoustics. So the musicians would tie their, the instruments from their waist and suspend the instruments from their waist. And this lady in the soiree would move around the connoisseurs dancing so that, there were no acoustics. So everybody gets a nice piece of that performance or the presentation and can appreciate firsthand. And the musicians would move along with the singer in that circle. And that's how they performed in the days of the yore. And Banaras was a big center for that. Our singing performers, our divas, I call them the singing divas, were called the Bais or the Baijis. They were courtesans also. They were very, very good in their art. They were sometimes only singers. And their only profession was to sing and do the dance bit on that singing. They were not into any other profession besides that. Or sometimes you could have a courtesan who was like a courtesan in all ways of the meaning of the word. But Banaras flourished. And then we also had the musicians of Banaras taking to learning Thumri. So Banaras became a big center. And we have the example of Bade Ramdas ji, Chote Ramdas ji, and we have Mahadev Mishra ji, who's a very renowned Thumri singer of Banaras. And some of the female singers of Banaras of yore at that point of time, Rajeshwari and Vidyadhari, Choti Maina, Badi Maina, and Nanua, Bachua. These were the Banaras courtesans and very famous singers. Of course, the most famous is Gohar Jan of Kolkata. She's called Gohar Jan of Kolkata because she lived in Calcutta for a long time, though she did live in Banaras for also a fairly long time. She was the daughter of the famous Thumri singer, Badi Malka. There were many Malkas and many Gohars, so that's why they were called by a particular name. And her mother was called Badi Malka. And Badi Malka lived in Banaras for many years and trained herself. She was an Armenian-born person, but married an Indian, and lived in Banaras and trained herself in music and took to the music as a profession. Then started teaching her daughter Gohar, who became a very, very famous courtesan singer of her times called Gohar Jan. And when Gainsbourg came to India and started doing the gramophone recordings, then one of the first few people who got recorded in the musical singing traditions and these famous female singers was Gohar Jan. So then he recorded her, and many records of her are available in the 78 RPM era of gramophone and Decca and some of these companies also. Gohar was a very fine singer, highly skilled singer, sang in many languages. So we talked about Banaras being a center. And my Guruji, Pandit Padma Vibhushan Pandit Chandulal Mishra ji's Paradada, Pandit Jagdeep Prasad Mishra ji, was a very renowned singer of Banaras in those days. So when Ustad Moizuddin Khan visited Banaras from Lucknow, he said to somebody, take me to somebody who really is very, very good in Thumri. I want to hear the Banarsi Thumri. People took him to Pandit Jagdeep Prasad Mishra, and he stood in the doorway itself and sang for 3 hours, as anecdote has it. And Ustad Moizuddin Khan gave his hand forward and said, Pandit ji, aap mujhe ganda bandh dijiye. Ganda bandhna in our musical language means you tie a thread around my head, my wrist, so that I become your disciple. Disciples are usually given a holy thread which they tie around their hand and which ties them in this holy alliance with their guru. or their teacher. And such was the largesse part of the singers in those days, which we may or may not find today. There are many compulsions, but that was the mahal or the ambience of music in those days. Now, having talked about type of Thumri, also Thumri itself has many subdivisions. For example, Thumri is, you have Thumri, then you have the shorter version of that, which is like Chota Khayal Dadra, the 6 matra Dadra. I will hum a 2-line Dadra so that you get an idea about what is a Thumri and the Dadra. And then Chaiti. Thumri also has a lot of seasonal music into it, because India is a country of seasons. So we have Chaiti in the months of late March, April, because the roses are in bloom in the month of Chait. And we have Chaiti, which is a song of separation, the harvesting season, and the beloved has gone to another town for earning bread and butter, and the female protagonist is left alone. So she's singing these forlorn songs. And we have Kajari, which are monsoon songs. Again, we sing for the beloved that we are missing him. It's raining and we are not able to be on the swing with him. And Cheti, Kajari, Hori. In Holi, which is the color festival in India in March, late February, March, we have the Holis. We have the Rasya, because Krishna or men in Braj were given the female costume and dressed up as females in the Holi. So we have the Rasya. Rasiya ko nar banauri, let's make Krishna Radha, and vice versa, these kind of lyrics. And then we have Baramasa, which is all the 12 months descriptions. So there are many sub-genres within the Thumri genre, Thumri and Dadra being the main 2 genres of the Thumri spectrum. I will sing a Dadra and give you a bit of demo, a little, just within a couple of minutes. Then Thumri also has a typology that we have Vilambit Laiki Thumri, the slow-paced Thumri in Jat, 16 matra, 16 beat, or 14 matra Deep Chandi, or we can have Thumri in what we call Madhyalay. Usually it's a 16 matra Sitar Khani or Adha Tal to which it is sung. We can have what became the Lucknow ki Bandish ki Thumri or Bol Baat ki Thumri, because that is compatible with Kathak dance. It has a lot of footwork. So ek tal or teen tal mein, that Thumri used to be in 16 matra, 3 tal or ek tal, 12 matra, and was very pacey, fast in its laikari, because footwork was integral part of that Thumri. And it also came to be known as the Bol Baat ki Thumri, because Bol Baat means you will divide the bol, which is the lyrics, into many cuts to go and become compatible and one with the structure of the dance which will follow or it will accompany. So it was accompaniment to dance, and therefore it followed the dance style or the beat patterns. And then Vilambit is a slow pace that we have given you a demo and talked about, and Madhyalay, which is the medium pace. And then we had, we used to call it Nritya Bhav Thumri, Bhav, Nritya Thumri, Gati Pradhan Thumri. There are 7-8 typologies of Thumri itself. Some other time when we're giving a demo of Thumri itself in a leg dem, we will sing and give you a demo of the same. Now I will sing a short Dadra, and we will make our transition to the independence movement and the contribution of our Thumri singers of yore, and how how they contributed in their own way from their own small states and towns and into this whole huge Andolan of Swatantrata Sangram. So just a quick Dadra, a 2-liner, and then we come to that. This is Raga Mishra, which is a beautiful afternoon raga now. And 12 notes are employed in Raga Pilu, all the soft notes and all the main notes. And it gives you the canvas, therefore, to really go into a lot of music scape, because the raga itself goes through 12 notes and the freedom to the 12 notes. And it's a very, very beautiful romantic raga, Raga Mishra Pilu, and I'm singing a Dadra in that. from Banaras or Gaya and Gaya both, common literature in both these cities. Hamare kaha mano Raja ji hamare kaha mano. So just to translate this for you, Hamare kaha mano Raja ji. The female protagonist is saying to her beloved, please listen to me, my beloved. Why aren't you listening to me? And eventually she says, don't go to a faraway country because Sultan or the other woman is going to steal you from me. Always the biggest perennial global fear of any woman is that her beloved is going to be stolen away from her and some other woman is going to walk off with him. So see, as long as 200 years ago also, literature expresses the same platform that we may talk about it even today globally. So, Hamare kaha mano Raja ji hamare kaha mano Hamare kaha mano re Hamare kaha mano Hamare kaha mano Hamare kaha mano Raja ji hamare kaha mano Raja ji hamare kaha mano Hamare kaha mano Raja ji hamare kaha mano. So the Dadra is shorter, the meter, it is more coquettish, a genre compared to Thumri. The first one I sang was a Radha Krishna Bhakti movement. This is a pure, what we call is a literature from the Darbar, or because the courts and the kings were the patrons. So obviously the soirees used to entertain them and were tailored to their entertainment or their kind of literature. Now we come to Thumri. We've talked about our Thumri Divas of Banaras, and I'm going to name some of our Thumri Divas who made enormous contributions to our freedom movement. And that may take a lot of people by surprise, even in India, because reams of literature of Thumri, textbooks on Thumri, research papers on Thumri, lectures on Thumri talk about the Thumri spectrum, its specialities, its key characteristics, developments, and about its compositions. Very few people know about the contribution during the freedom movement of these performing divas who we call Baijis or the courtesans. Now, there is a very wonderful book that I want to share the name with and title with you. It's written by a former civil servant of India who was a Central Excise Commissioner. And his name, he was also this Excise Commissioner of Banaras at one point of time, where he chanced upon a lot of old recordings. He has personal recordings in excess of, I think, 1 lakh recordings of the old gramophone era. He has them and has written a beautiful book called the Baja Nama, which is published by Kathachitra Publications from Lucknow. And he was posted to cities of Lucknow, Kolkata, Banaras, and Delhi, and he has collected a lot of this archival material and written these books, beautifully researched and written. You must see this book and look out on the Amazon, or even look up the author. His name is Amarnath Sharma, and Baja Nama. And he mentions, for the first time, he mentioned in this book, in one place, and collated material about the contribution of these freedom fighters. And I happened to read that, and I'd like to share that with you. So one of the courtesans of Banaras, and she's very famous, her name is Husna Jan. She was also the president of the Tawayaf Sangh of Banaras in those days. And when Gandhiji had given a clarion call during his visits to Bareilly and Kashi for people to join in the freedom movement, as well as, there is a book called Var Vadhu Vivechan, which is a book which is a publication done in 1892. There was a social reformers meeting held in Madras, Chennai today, in 1892 to eradicate prostitution. And Goswami Sudhakar, his name is Sudhadhar Dev Sharma, wrote about this meeting in a book called Var Vadhu Vivechan. This is published from Sahitya Sadan in 1929. I found the reference of this also from Amarnath Sharmaji's Badhana. Now, many people were told not to watch the Notch and to abandon this profession. Gandhiji also, during his non-cooperation movement, made a trip to Kashi, Varanasi, as well as Bareilly, and he told these courtesans to break from the shackles of prostitution and join in the freedom movement. But how? They have a profession, they have mouths to feed. So the Husna Jan, the head of the association in Banaras, got everybody together and she said, we must begin our recitals first with a patriotic song. And we must enrich our repertoire with more patriotic songs than just darbar songs. And we must amalgamate more bhakti songs or devotional songs. So see how the mind made a transition on Gandhiji's clarion call, and how even a person whose profession was so difficult that she could not jettison that profession to join this freedom movement openly, came forward through her renderings, whether it was in a darbar or a public platform or a mandir or her own daily practice. She started singing a patriotic song first and then her own other compositions for her patrons. I think it's a tremendous, tremendous contribution. And so many of them joined the Charkha movement also, some of these singing bhais as we call them. And they came together and they supported the national movement for independence. And Husna Jan got elected as a president. And there is mention of this election in the Var Vadhu Vivechan also. And then in one of her speeches to this Tawayaf son, Husna Jan says, and I quote, this is her poetry, Mandir mein chand chamakta, Mandir mein chand chamakta, Masjid mein hai murli ki taan. So this is also national integration of sorts in those days. Mandir mein hai chand chamakta, Masjid mein hai murli ki taan, Makkah ho chahe Vrindavan, hote aapas mein qurban. So this is Husna to collect them together. And she told them to become like Joan of Arc, if you please. She inspired them in her speeches, and she cited the example of Joan of Arc, Rani Lakshmi Bai, ki vaisi virangana bano. So Chittor ki virangana bano, Rani Lakshmi Bai bano. And they would commence their renditions with nationalistic and patriotic songs. And she advised the members of this Sabha to collect the patriotic songs from another leading singer of Banaras in those days called Vidyadhari Bai. Vidyadhari was a very Rajeshwari. Rajeshwari was the Mausi. Rajeshwari ji was Mausi to Siddheshwari Devi. Even after independence, we know from Banaras, we had three famous singers, Siddheshwari Devi, Rasulan Bai, who was actually from Allahabad, but lived in Banaras also a long time. And we had Badi Moti Bai of Darbhanga. And these were the three, big singers of their times of Pura Bangarki. And so Husna told all the members of this Sangh, please go to Vidyadhari, collect. She has many patriotic songs and learn and start singing. I think it's such a huge, huge endeavor that at their level, with their limitations, they have contributed and gone pretty unsung. So a famous song from Vidyadhari, and I want to read out this song and you see the flavor and the fervor of patriotism in this song. Bharat na reh sakega hargiz gulam khana. Bharat hargiz na reh sakega gulam khana. Azad hoga, आया है वो जमाना, परवाह अब किसे है इस जेल और दामन की, परवाह अब किसे है इस जेल और दामन की, एक खेल हो रहा है फांसी पे झूल जाना. She must have thought about Shahid Bhagat Singh and Sukhdev and Rajguru. We recently celebrated our Shahidi Divas on 23rd of March. So एक खेल हो रहा है फांसी पे झूल जाना. भारत वतन हमारा, भारत के हम हैं बच्चे, माता के वास्ते है मंजूर सर कटाना, भारत न रह सकेगा हरगिज गुलाम खाना. This is a song composed by Vidyadhari Bai, and as a tribute to her, we are mentioning her today and talking about it. To continue the strain of the Azadi, and we are celebrating the Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, where we all know that there are many people who have gone also unsung, and some of the sung unsung are also, I had worked on this project, which I shared also the details with our ambassador, His Excellency Shri Akhilesh Mishra ji, about the California-based Ghadar movement. You know, we had one Ghadar movement, contemporary, their counterparts in Punjab, and then we had them in California. And a lot of Ghadar literature was written Punjabi, translated into English, and vice versa. And then a lot of poets took to, after the Jallianwala Bagh debacle, a lot of our poets took to writing, and that poetry was banned by the government of that day, which is the British government. And later, the literature was revived, and this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, I chanced upon some of that literature. I had the good fortune to get that poetry from a good friend, and we worked on that. And I researched for more compositions, and I composed them. Being a singer, it's perhaps easy. It comes to me naturally to compose. I composed them, and in very big functions here in India, to mark the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav for our Ministry of Culture, Government of India, we presented those compositions to live public. It's also on my personal YouTube. You can check it out. And so, way back in those days, before the Azadi, the singers of yore, those who belong to this gossamer world, those who belong to this glorious tradition of everyday mehfils and soirees and ornaments and silks and the rustle of silks, and that was their lifestyle, right? And took to the clarion call of Gandhiji and joined the freedom movement. And they were also hugely inspired by, and I would like to mention, because his voice recording exists in the gramophone era, and my friend Shri Amarnath Sharma ji does have a copy of that, which he has mentioned in his book Baja Nama. Shri Surendranath Banerjee, we all know what a great contributor he was to the freedom movement. And so there is one disc on which Shri Surendranath Banerjee's speech is on either side. So this is the partition of Bengal. His speech on the part, and the original record is with Shri Amarnath Mishra ji. I would very much request our ambassador, His Excellency Shri Akhilesh Mishra ji, invite him to give you a talk on the freedom movement, or through the recordings that he has, from the gramophone era, etc. He has a huge collection. So the record number 20291 side has the partition of Bengal speech, and on 20290 side is the Vande Mataram and Swadeshi speech by Shri Surendranath Banerjee ji. And that Vande Mataram became the buzzword, as you know. It became the catchphrase and the buzzword, and it became the voice of India, and was subsequently banned. All publication of Vande Mataram was banned, like other poetry. I would request Hema ji now to share with us one by one some of the slides that we have, because it ties in very well with our singing divas. And we will take it up again from Husna Jan, and I will continue my speaking. So let's show all the gramophone records of the Banaras Thumri and the Indian Thumri and Gaya Thumri one by one. Yes. So this is these are the original records. You can see Hindustani female song. This is 78 RPM era of the Thumri singers of yore, recorded from 1902 onwards. This again, Wazir Jan, one of the famous singers. And we have Ustad Munne Khan Banaras, very, very famous. And this is in Beka Grand. This is Gohar Jan. We talked about Gohar Jan, if you remember earlier on. Gohar Jan of Calcutta, the most famous courtesan singer of India was Gohar Jan. She was very, very affluent. She was very, very famous. She sang in many languages. Her mother was the Badi Malka of Banaras. And this is Gohar Jan standing with the gramophone. Yes. More, we have Ram Prasad Mishra and Thade Kadam Ki Chaiya, very, very famous record of Sri Ramoji Mishra of Gaya, Pandit Ramaji, also very, very famous. Then we have Ganga Pujaya, which is Gondharins, which is also a very old and very famous record. This is a pictorial representation of a cylinder, because the cylinders predate even the gramophone era, and some of the voice recordings are available from private recordings of the kings and their couturiers in cylindrical wax cylinder forms, etc. And this is just a pictorial representation for you to see what a cylinder looked like. Yes. Again, very famous record of your. Yes, Hemaji. Yes, again, a very, very old recording. These are all from the gramophone era. This one also from the gramophone era. This one also from the gramophone. This one also from the gramophone era. This one also from the gramophone era. Yes. By the way, all these originals are in the custody of Shri Amarnath Sharmaji that we mentioned. Yes, this one also. And now I'd like you to come to Husna Jan's photograph, Hemaji, and share with us, because we talked about her immense contribution as the president of that association of singing divas. Yes. Husna Jan of Banaras. This is Husna Jan of Banaras in a sitting pose. You can see that, that stature and that personality that she had of a very quiet, very sober head of that association who wielded so much influence. The next picture, please. That's also Husna Jan of Banaras for you. The next one. This is Vidyadhari, who had many compositions, and the one that I read you, for which we talked about, Bharat Na Reh Sakega Hargiz Gulam Khana, is written by Vidyadhari Bai of Banaras. And Husna Ji asked many of her association's members to go and learn many patriotic songs from Vidyadhari, so they could begin the recital with a patriotic song first. What a fantastic contribution and a fantastic idea. And the next we have of Sir Surendranath Banerjee. Shri Surendranath Banerjee Ji. This is Shri Surendranath Banerjee Ji. And Vande Mataram, as I said, became the buzzword and the catchword. And then we have the recordings also of Vande Mataram in the voice of Narayan Chandra Mukherjee, which was also subsequently banned. This is a picture of the first, this is literally the first Indian national flag in 1906. It's also a tricolor, as we see with Vande Mataram written on that. And the Vande Mataram songs were banned, only to be revived subsequently. And today it is not just a battle cry, it is a cry from every voice of India, every Indian. It is the pride of every Indian. And I'm so glad that in my talk on Thumri today, which is essentially a genre of the Hindustani classical music spectrum, others being Drupad Khayal and Tappa, we could not only talk about Thumri and how it stands in the Hindustani classical music and art music spectrum, its place, its genesis, its development, and its journey down the ages, its typology and its famous singers. And we also demonstrated the difference between the Thumri and Dadra and talked about Khayal and Thumri. But we could, over and above, in the year in which you are hosting, Your Excellency, this talk from Dublin, our Embassy of India in Ireland, from your, as they say, from your good offices, this beautiful opportunity to me to talk about not only my subject, the Thumri, but share these nuggets and these experiences as take home for people who probably did not know about this, these unsung female heroes of music, who through music have contributed so significantly to our freedom movement, that they are now going to be remembered and talked about more and more, I hope, after this presentation today. And once again, I thank you for giving me this absolutely God-sent, after my heart, and thank you is a very small word. I do not have adequate words to express my utter deep gratitude to our Embassy of India in Dublin, Ireland, and you particularly, our ambassador, sir, for inviting me to talk about this and to give me an opportunity not only to talk, but talk at a time like this in Amritkal, where we are celebrating not only our Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, but our forthcoming G20. So I very respectfully, again, my pranams and my namaskaram to all the people who are with us on your Facebook Live and through the live streaming. And as they say, we begin and end always with Parvati Patiye Hara 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 Mahadev, to the land of Mahadev or the Lord Shiva, Varanasi, and to the Lord himself who stands with the Trishul and his guards the city of Varanasi and our music. I bow my head 1,000 times and thank you all from the bottom of my heart for giving me this opportunity today. Jai Hind, Jai Hind. Thank you so much. Thank you.
How nice. Kumudji, on behalf of the Indian Embassy, I would like to express our very sincere gratitude to you for your such an inspiring presentation. It's only you who can do it, starting from Vedas to contemporary times, and how you have woven not only the educational component, but also information and entertainment, and like the holistic presentation that you have given us is very unique. Is only you could have done it. And based on what I listened from your presentation, I have already got many ideas to work together and follow up, because you know, Ireland and India have had common historical experience of British colonial exploitation and then getting independence. So this is one track, the nationalism and the folk culture. We have a lot of parallels. What you described, how a Thumri tradition was used to generate patriotic sentiments. Same thing I see in the Irish, very rich, vibrant folk culture, folk songs. This is one line for both of us to explore how we can learn from each other's experience. Second is the Irish friends are doing extremely valuable work in preserving their heritage of musical and dance traditions, music particularly. So I think in Ireland, there's a government supported, but basically a private sector led initiative, where there's one institution, Ireland Traditional Music Association. They are collecting ancient pieces of music. And also they are in the process of digitizing. I think this is again another area in which friends like you can be a very useful link. How do we share each other's knowledge and experience and collaborate? Like our heritage is so rich, so diverse, and preserving it, making it accessible to the common public is a huge task. And you are already doing remarkable pioneering work. We are very grateful to you. I really look forward to welcoming you in person in Dublin, because I would be honored to host you for kind of lecture cum demonstration tour in Irish universities on the field of with the interaction with the scholars of music in Ireland, and also the tradition of preserving folk music, research and scholarship on folk music. I think it'll be very interesting for us to work together with Ireland.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It's been a treat to me to present this talk and share from your Facebook Live in the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav year. And I'm personally very, very grateful to the embassy, to you, to Hemaji, to all your embassy staff for making this happen.
Thank you so much. All the best. And my very warm greetings to all the friends in the cultural and musical circle in Delhi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.